Oh, I can die
It's
tomorrow.
harsh. It's
Right.
harsh.
The
I can
question
die
doesn't make
tomorrow with no
Brilliant.
regrets.
the
No
question
worries.
doesn't make sense. It is what it is.
Okay, so they are not going to make any modification, although with all
They
the
are.
feedback that we have, right? They
They
are.
are.
Okay, that's great.
but they're going to do it whenever they do it. Maybe 2 years from now, maybe 50 years from now.
Tyler, are you
Yeah.
going to have a certain sort of setup on your stages now that Twitter Spaces is where you're going to be carrying your events?
Say that again, Ame.
Basically, obviously, there's a limited number that could be on stage at a time, right?
Right.
So, how are you going to are you going to navigate how your stage looks and who you're going to have there based on the? Is it going to be based on your topic? Is it going to be based on how you do the format of Tech News Around the World? Because we've been on here for almost a year on this app, so I'm just curious how's your stage going to look, right? Especially with the different time zones.
When you say stage, you mean in the app.
The people that you'll have on the stage, right? To be super direct.
The word stage to me means a physical venue.
Okay, so within the Twitter Spaces, you have
There you go.
The host,
right,
and the speaker section, right?
Yes.
So the speakers, clearly, my thought is how is Tyler going to navigate his speakers?
Yes.
Versus like his guests and stuff, like when people raise hands to ask questions, just how you're going to navigate that. That's my curiosity.
It's not totally known yet, but here's the thoughts that go through my mind, which is it's possible we'll be able to have both Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces going simultaneously, and the listeners in either room will be able to hear both. So that's what I'm hoping happens. Then there is the possibility that it won't be in Clubhouse, in which case it'll be limited to a total of 13 people on stage, as you call it, or speakers and hosts. And in that case, one of the things that Twitter Spaces does that Clubhouse doesn't do is allow for the changing of the name of the room anytime you want. So we leave it static currently as Tech News Around the World, but if I could edit it, I or Cheryl or somebody would change the name of the room every time there's a new article that we're reading. So we're going to talk about, like, for example, the first article today is about Coinbase. Coinbase acquires crypto wallet startup BRD. So we would change the title to Coinbase acquires BRD. Tech News Around the World, Coinbase acquires BRD. And then we do that for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And then we're going to go into the next article, which is Instagram to testify before Senate. And then we change that. And my thinking is people who want, or as soon as I announce the article, and I let's rehearse right now. So I say, I think we're ready. I think I pinned the thing. I think is everybody ready? I'm ready. So it'll go like this as a sort of rehearsal. We could blow the air horn. And then I say, now let's imagine that there's only 10 people on stage, as you call it. And then I say, okay, everybody, welcome back. The first story is about Coinbase. Now, that's a sign that it's very I think we can all agree who is likely to comment on that. And Ame, you certainly come to mind. So, and some people don't come to mind about Coinbase. So, when I'm reading the Coinbase article, if people think that there's a chance they might have a thought about it, raise their hand and we'll bring them up in real time. Because when we have an article, I say, okay, so the first article is Coinbase. Coinbase acquires crypto wallet startup BRD and says BRD wallet users will have the option to migrate to the Coinbase wallet in 2022. Crypto exchange Coinbase has acquired the crypto wallet startup BRD according to a notice from its leadership team. That's usually how long it takes me to read a headline. And in that amount of time, not only can people raise their hands, but they can be invited on stage. And there might be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10, 11 people who feel like they want to comment on that in that. And if they don't, that's fine. The idea is that you might. So we'll watch what happens when we go to the next article. So then the next article is, okay, that's great. then everybody on stage can themselves very easily remove themselves from the stage, like in one click. As I read the next one, it's from the New York Times. That alone could give you a hint that you might comment, the fact that it's from the New York Times. But it says that Instagram boss Adam Mosseri agrees to testify about Instagram's effects on teenage users before a Senate Commerce subcommittee during the week of December 6th. And I can already hear Ken's voice as I get to the end of that article in my imaginary ears. So I would very much expect that as I read that one, Ken and maybe Evan and Ben and, Cami, whoever, even Cheryl, I can see Cheryl commenting. I can see a bunch of people commenting on this. Everyone's welcome to raise their hands. And what I would do is, I guess that hopefully won't get tiring of people removing themselves from the stage, as you call it, after they've made their, whatever their thought is on that article. It does make it is a little bit taxing. But we'll have to try it. But that's only in the event that we're not going to have both rooms working simultaneously. So the second article, just to digest it for a second. And Emma, did you have any comments about Coinbase Wallet and acquiring BRD? I wasn't even really that familiar with BRD.
BRD is a bread wallet. It's been around since 2017, and it was a really good wallet. It's a very good wallet for cryptocurrency and super easy. And remember what Jack Dorsey was talking about regarding making wallets easier and more accessible? Yeah. Bread is one of those wallets. So there goes like the little connection piece. Bread is a very, very simple wallet, and bread is spelled BRD.
Okay.
And that wallet was one of the wallets that's an OG wallet.
Yeah. And then they took to their Twitter account to say, update to the community. Today, we would like to share that members of our team will be continuing our mission at Coinbase, where we will work together to bring the power of decentralization to ever more users around the globe. And then the New York Times one about Instagram agrees to testify about Instagram's effects on teenage users before the Senate Commerce Subcommittee during the week of December 6th. Adam Mosseri himself has taken to Twitter to comment about this, saying there's an important discussion. There's an important discussion happening right now about keeping young people safe online. I've been thinking a lot about how Instagram shows up, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of the work we're doing in the weeks ahead. And he even has some audio. He made a little 2-minute video. So let's take a little listen to what Adam has to say here.
I have 3 children, and there's nothing more important to me than their safety. And I think of those 3 boys when I think of young people and teens online, because eventually they're going to grow up and they're going to have access to a phone and the internet as well. And these are hotly contested subjects, and they're being debated from the halls of Congress to the dining room table and back right now. And young people do amazing things online. They question everything, they define new trends, they help give voice to those who have been historically marginalized. And it's my responsibility to keep them safe while they do those amazing things on Instagram, which is why we've invested so much in safety, and in safety particularly for young people on our platform. Over the last few years, we've led the fight against online bullying with new and interesting features like Restrict, which gives some power back to the targets of bullying, Hidden Words, which help you control your experience in DMs and in comments. We've limited the ability for adults to reach out to minors who don't follow them. We've moved to more private defaults for those under 16, and a lot more. And this work never ends, and it's something that we're committed to over the long run. But the most important person in a young person's life is their parent or guardian, because ultimately, you know what's best for your child, both online and offline. And so a few weeks ago, we announced that we're building parental controls, even for teens, to allow parents to control how much time their kids spend online, who they can follow, and who they can message and interact with. Now, parents are busy. I promise I understand that. And we still have a responsibility to make sure that the default experience is as safe as possible. But we think that empowering parents is an important part of the solution. And you're going to be hearing us talk a lot more about not only parental controls, but safety for young people online more broadly. And I'm going to be talking about these issues with Congress relatively soon. And these are important issues, but we have shared goals. We all want young people to be safe when they're online. So I look forward to these conversations, and you're going to be hearing more from us about our work on youth safety, not only at Instagram, but at MENA more broadly. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Did that come through okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And boy, he sounds like a real, he's an absolute child murderer, this guy. I mean, what an evil, clearly this guy is trying to take over the minds of your young children and make them feel bad about themselves. I mean, that's why they're so successful, right? So, as I said when we met last time, he's going to go up, tell the Senate exactly what he just told all of us, and they're going to realize, why are you here again? What is this hearing about exactly? Oh, we read something in the Wall Street Journal that you're hurting young girls or something, and they're committing suicide or something. And he's saying, no, the suicides are happening on TikTok. The deaths that you read about, that's TikTok. You had them here earlier, and they refused to answer your questions under oath. You might remember that. We're happy to answer any of your questions. We don't have a whole lot of suicides going on. We don't have a lot of deaths. We don't have any teachers being assaulted or bathrooms being destroyed across America, or kids overdosing on Benadryl and breaking their necks on the milk crate challenge. That's TikTok. But on Instagram, there's a whole lot of ladies with big booties taking selfies. Yeah. And to the degree that might make people feel bad about themselves, well, that's why we made these new parental controls. And we even made controls for people to limit their own time on Instagram.
Yeah, we lost Tyler.
Tyler, we lost you for 5 seconds.
Okay.
You said ladies, Instagram, lady.
Yes. I was making the point that Instagram is going to go to this Senate hearing, and it's going to be essentially a nothing burger. I mean, they've done these many, many times before. And every time they go, it's the same dog and pony show where the senators ask how to change their password. And this time they're going to ask, did you know that young women that you're hurting young women? And they'll say, well, that's interesting you ask that. Where did you hear that? And they'll say the Wall Street Journal. And they'll say, oh, interesting. Let's pull up that article. And then they're going to go through the slide that contains that data point, which has 24 data points on that slide, where they ask 12 questions to young women and young men about how Instagram makes them feel, which every clinical psychologist knows that's not clinical research. You don't ask the subject how the objects makes them feel, because they're not in a position to quantify. So it's very subjective. That's not scientific. That's not how research is done. You took the vaccine. How did it make you feel? That's not how we decide if the vaccine's effective. Did it stop COVID for you? Did you think it made COVID stop for you? That's not science. So asking them, do you think this makes you feel good about yourself or bad about yourself? It's nice information. I'm not saying it's bad information, but it's bad when it's presented as research. It's not research. It's a user survey done by somebody who, has good intentions. They just wanted feedback. That's great. And they made a presentation for their coworkers at Facebook while they're having nice burritos at El Pollo Loco. And she said, I asked a bunch of young people who use our app, and here's some of the responses they had to my survey. I made a Google form. And it turns out that all of the boys think that Instagram actually helps them in every part of their life. And all the young girls, it helps them, and they think it helps them on every part of their life, except for one, which is their own body self-image. And somehow that survey, that one result, out of all the boys and girls of 10 questions or 12 questions of each, the one result to the one question about how does it make you feel about body self-image, many of the young ladies says it makes them feel worse about their body self-image. And that was the data point that the Wall Street Journal ran with and did a whole big piece on, and then the New York Times doubled down, and their friends at the Wall Street Journal doubled down and they turned it into their new jihad. And that's why this hearing is happening. Make no mistake about it. That is precisely why the hearing is happening, because the senators themselves said in an article 5 days ago why they're calling in Instagram's boss to the Senate hearing, because they read somewhere that it's hurting young girls about their body self-image. So they've revealed the source of their ire that is causing them to call in Adam Mosseri to come testify before the Senate to find out, did they really know that it's hurting young women, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's going to explain what's going on, and they're going to say, thank you very much, sorry for wasting your time. But that, now you know why the New York Times is itself, hot, doubling down. And I'm willing to bet that their friends at the Wall Street Journal and Washington Post are also running with this article that Adam Mosseri is going to go testify, or agreed to go testify, the week of December 6th to the Senate. And let me just have a looky here. So it says, here's the other publications that have headlines that to the same effect. The Next Web itself, a very woke tech publication based out of Europe here. Adam Mosseri versus Congress, why the Senate believes Instagram is bad for kids. Oh, that's not leading the witness at all. At what point did the Senate say they believe Instagram's bad for kids? They haven't. And now, again, with the misinformation, we have a huge misinformation problem going on from media like this, in headlines just like that. When you write a headline that says Adam Mosseri versus Congress, which is Instagram's boss, why the Senate believes Instagram is bad for kids, they don't believe that. That's why they've asked him to come talk about it. After they talk about it, then they might believe that. And then to whatever degree they think it might be bad for kids is because they've read your previous misinformation. And that's why they are bothering this dude to come talk, because you've misinformed them and said it's bad for kids. And so he's going to come and he's going to explain that you're a bunch of fucking liars. And he's going to prove it. So stop doing this again. You're doing it again, the Next Web. What are you doing? You're ruining journalism when you do this. The next one is USA Today. Instagram's head, Adam Mosseri, to testify before Congress amid mounting criticism over child safety. Okay, well, there was one data point out of a big survey, and interestingly, all the other data points were totally ignored, which, once all the videotape gets shown, once all the facts are revealed, you're going to look like a bunch of idiots. And you can drum up this dumpster fire. You can throw all the gas you can on this dumpster fire and make it look like a huge, dangerous fire. You just keep throwing gas on it. But it's going to be seen for what it is. Next, Washington Post, as I said they would. Instagram chief says an app for kids is the right thing to do. Yeah, well, you don't think it is, and you're trying to scare people by phrasing it in that way. Because you have an agenda. You have a narrative you're trying to create. That he's some kind of tone-deaf person who, that's some evil thing, making apps for kids. CNN, Instagram head to testify before Senate subcommittee about the platform's impacts on kids. Thank you, CNN. That's actually an appropriate, as you should do, because you're one of the biggest publications in the world. Thank you for not going, 2 steps over the cliff of insanity, and just state it as it is. He's going to come testify. Next, Wall Street Journal. Instagram's boss to testify in Congress on child safety issues. There you go, Wall Street Journal. You didn't go full crazy jihad like your friends over at the Next Web. Why the Senate believes Instagram is bad for kids. And CNBC, Instagram chief Adam Mosseri to testify before Congress for the first time. Okay, and there you go. So we'll see. We will see what's going to happen when he testifies the week of December 6th. If you've been watching those Senate hearings with tech company leaders like I have for many years, you know exactly how this is going to go.
What is internet? That will be the first question.
Precisely, yes. Why is my laptop slower now than it was 3 years ago? And what's this thing about kids? We read something in the Wall Street Journal. And he's going to say, yeah, well, there's this thing. They're on a jihad. Here's what really happened. Here's the slide that they found. There was a whistleblower named Frances Haugen. She took a bunch of documents on her way out the door. Here's the document she was referring to that they didn't show as part of their article. And here's why they didn't show this slide as part of their article. Because when you look at the whole slide, when it's like if you have an image, have you seen that cartoon of a big image? And if you crop an image in a particular way, you can show the opposite of what the image actually, the entire image means, right? So if you crop an image down to show only a very strategic 10% of it, and ignore all of the important other context around it, you can, make it look like the opposite of what's really going on. Same with a movie. Same with any interview. If you take an hour-long interview and I only show 1 minute of it, I can make somebody look the opposite of what they actually mean. That's
like taking things out of context,
it's
or
totally
manipulating
precisely
data, or taking a snippet of a huge graph and just, taking
right.
pieces to fit your narrative.
Right. So he's going to show the whole context, and they're going to say, I'm so sorry we wasted your time. If you don't agree with me, please bet me. I take Bitcoin, gold, whatever any crypto, Doge, whatever. Please bet me whatever money you have on this. So the third article, Checkpoint details MediaTek DSP firmware vulnerabilities in some Android smartphones that could be exploited to eavesdrop. MediaTek released patches in October. Checkpoint Research discovers a vulnerability in the digital signal processor found in system-on-a-chip offerings on Android phones. That's just your hourly update that your phones are pwned.
Just a coincidence. It's MediaTek in China. Yeah.
And my friends with Android see your phones are not better than Apple either.
Oh, no, but that was always known. Eavesdropping bugs in MediaTek chips affect 37% of all smartphones globally. So these chips are in 37% of all smartphones globally, and these chips have firmware vulnerabilities that allow them to be exploited for eavesdropping. It's just 37% of all phones on the planet. In the chips, the vulnerabilities in the chips. And is that by design? When those kinds of headlines happen, what kind of informed individuals think to themselves is that by design somehow? Did the government insist that they have that? So the next one is New York Times. Pinterest settles the lawsuit over allegations of discrimination by pledging $50 million to overhaul its corporate culture and promote diversity. So let's see. And they were...
So, Tyler, sorry.
Yes.
About the 37% of those phones,
Yes.
is there any data based on their location, where they were distributed, who purchased them? Was there any connection with the choices made in whom to sell those kind of phones, or where to distribute them in terms of location? Because that would be interesting.
Which phones use MediaTek chips?
Yes, the one that has the listening capacity, whatever, eavesdropping. Were they intentionally distributed in certain regions of the world, or was this just random distribution?
Mostly Android phones. No, they're not. Apple doesn't use MediaTek, so this is Android phones. let's see, who uses MediaTek? Which companies, which phones use MediaTek chips? We'll have to dig that up. So we could know which manufacturer.
Later part is Xiaomi, Redmi Note, and others including Oppo, Redmi, Vivo, mostly Chinese
Chinese phones.
brand. Yeah, Xiaomi,
Yeah.
Oppo, Redmi,
Yeah.
Vivo.
Those are all big Chinese brands. So it'd be interesting to know if Samsung does as well. Because then Samsung is a brand that's it's Korean, but might use Chinese chips and also sell in the US. Like the US smartphone brands probably don't use MediaTek chips the same way the big Chinese phones do. Okay, next up is Pinterest pledges $50 million to overhaul its corporate culture and promote diversity as part of an agreement to resolve allegations that it discriminated against women and people of color, according to court documents and statements from the plaintiffs, which was the Employees Retirement System of Rhode Island. Well, that's what you call, that's what we call a major investor. These employee retirement funds, like the CalPERS, you have the California Teachers Retirement Fund, you have the Firefighters Retirement Fund. These are huge pools of money, and they often do invest in tech. And sometimes they invest in the VC companies. They very often invest in the VC companies, and then they let the VCs invest and decide who is the right startups to invest in. Sometimes they invest directly, as in this case. The Employees Retirement System of Rhode Island invested in Pinterest. And that's who sued Pinterest. Because I believe they're worried about the value of Pinterest that they invested in. And, they're worried about these allegations. Well, here's what happens. Because it's a public entity, the Employee Retirement System of Rhode Island, it's not a private company like BlackRock or Tiger Global. Public companies often have to answer to constituents. So you could have the people whose pension money is being held, right? Like in the California Teachers Fund, the California teachers themselves might tell the fund, hey, fund, why are you investing in Pinterest? I just heard that there are a bunch of racists and misogynists. And then that will force the fund to go have a meeting with them and say, hey, some of our constituents are complaining that we're an investor of yours. You need to answer to this. You see where I'm going? Where BlackRock invests in something, and if they're accused, if it's said in the press that there's sexism or racism going on, BlackRock doesn't really have anyone to answer to in a similar way as the California Teachers Fund or the Employees Retirement System Fund for Rhode Island, etc. So, being a public fund, they had a conversation with Pinterest, and Pinterest says, okay, how about this? How about we pledge $50 million to overhaul our corporate culture and promote diversity as part of to resolve these allegations? And they said, okay, that sounds like a sincere way to address the problem. Thank you very much. It doesn't say if they actually got any direct payment from Pinterest as part of the settlement. The settlement was announced nearly a year after Pinterest agreed to pay $22.5 million to resolve a gender discrimination and retaliation lawsuit from its chief operating officer, who had accused them of, misogyny of some kind. So it's there we go. End of that story. Next one. Verizon and AT&T offered to reduce the power coming from their 5G towers for 6 months as the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, examines possible aircraft interference. Wireless operators said Verizon and AT&T specifically, that they will limit the strength of service on their brand new 5G towers while the aviation regulators review the impact on planes and helicopters. And there's a bunch of interesting little details here, which is AT&T and there's three main players in the US, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. And they're racing to put up these 5G towers. T-Mobile runs on a different spectrum, which is not expected to have any way of interfering with airplanes. Verizon and AT&T's spectrum, they're now concerned that it might have some kind of interference with airplanes, and so they're telling them don't put up any more towers, especially near airports. And Verizon and AT&T are replying, well, what if we put them up and reduce the power coming from the towers? That's the headline. So the next one is that the EU, European Union, proposes stricter rules for political ads, including sharing info on ads and banning targeted based on race, or face fines up to 5% of global revenue. I love these Europeans, how they do this. So there's a new one every week now. So the EU is now going to have stricter rules as it applies to political ads. And the main thing is that you can no longer send out political ads on Facebook, most notably targeting based on race. And if you do, you're going to have to give up 5% of your global revenue, not your European revenue, your global revenue. And the EU is really setting all kinds of interesting global revenue based regulations for these big tech companies. And it's just a matter of time before one of them steps into one of these bear traps and will be coughing up 5% of their global revenue. Ursula von der Leyen from the EU says, proud of our proposals today, clearer rules on transparency for political ads and on EU political parties. It's a new push for European democracy, a priority of my mandate. I count on the co-legislators' swift work to have the rules in place for the 2024 EU elections. And the EU Commission Twitter account says people must be able to participate in open debates free from disinformation to protect election integrity. We are proposing clear rules on political advertising. Our measures are scope, transparency labels, stricter rules for targeting and amplification, fines for breaches. So what happens if Russia runs some political ads, as they've been known to do? And they do try to meddle with your election. Are you going to, these fines only apply to the big tech companies. So are you going to penalize Facebook for Russian misinformation, election interference driven ads? We'll see. But Facebook has their work cut out for them to make sure they comply with these new political ads in the EU. Next one, Wall Street Journal says they have sources. At least 9 state-run Chinese companies, including China Mobile, have told their staff to limit use of Tencent's domestic app called Weixin, citing security concerns. Employees were told to disband chat groups over security concerns as Beijing scrutiny into Tencent grows. This is twice.
Is that a Chinese app or American?
Yes, Chinese. This is all internal.
Weixin is WeChat.
Yeah, WeChat.
Yeah. So employees.
Oh, that's WeChat? Tencent is WeChat?
Yes.
In China.
Oh,
Weixin
yeah.
is WeChat, yes.
It's not safe at all. Yeah, WeChat is not safe.
Well, this is in the whole article is about China, internal China affairs. China state-run companies are being told to not use Tencent's messaging app, which we call WeChat. Yes.
But if you have to communicate with anybody who is based in China, you only have an option, which is WeChat.
Yes, that's the only
Oh,
option.
they don't have signal there?
I'm pretty sure they do in the Uyghur genocide camps. I'm pretty sure they're using Signal
Yeah,
there, though.
Aaron, they have the Great Firewall of China.
Sorry, guys, I didn't know.
Yeah. Some Chinese state-run companies are restricting employees' use of Tencent's popular domestic messaging app, citing security concerns, according to people familiar with the matter. Now, what's interesting is 24 hours ago, there was a headline that the CCP is telling Tencent, any updates that you do to your app, we must check first. Don't try and push an update to the app stores, the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, without running your new code through us. Nothing suspicious at all. We just want to see. We're just curious. We're just curious what you guys are doing with your code. We just want to have a little looky look. Whatever. We just want to see what's going on with your code. No big deal. We just no real reason. We're just kind of interested. We just want to see what you're doing. Coincidence? No, not at all. The CCP is deeply neurotic and correctly concerned that the citizens of China are someday going to rise up and take them over. And they're going to use WhatsApp to do it. That's just a fact. But if the CCP can make sure to neutralize that threat in WhatsApp and manage it and control the data in particular ways, they can neutralize that threat, that dystopian use case for them. So that existential threat. So this week, managers at least 9 state-run companies, including some of the nation's largest, such as China Mobile, China Construction Bank, China National Petroleum, etc., told employees that any chat groups set up for work purposes on their version of WeChat could contain sensitive information and should be shut down and deleted immediately. They also ordered employees to be cautious about using the app, which is the domestic sister app of WeChat for work-related communications. These state firms haven't publicly disclosed any security concerns over it. The move comes as Beijing intensifies scrutiny into internet giants, including Tencent, China's most valuable company, as well as Tencent's data collection practices. Here's a quote. Many companies around the world are moving towards enterprise software to meet their internal communications needs, Tencent said in a statement, adding that the company offers WeCom, an office collaboration app, as a solution. Well, something tells me they're not going to use that. I'll call it a hunch. On Wednesday, China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology told app stores that Tencent must obtain government approval before updating existing apps or launching any new apps. Yeah, we're skeptical of, even if you made a brand new app tomorrow, we want to see that first before you launch it. We still love you, sweetheart, baby. No, don't get me wrong. I still trust you. I love you 1,000%. I just, if you're gonna get in the car, I just want you to turn on your location tracking so I know where you're going. No, it's not that I don't trust you, sweetheart. No, baby, sweetheart, darling. No. It's all, sweetheart, listen, I still love you. I just need to know where you're going. No, I just need the password to your phone, sweetheart, darling. No, please. No, I just need to see what's in your phone. I trust you 1,000%, baby, sweetheart. What's the problem? Just give me the password to your phone. No, of course. I still care. Darling, just let me look in your phone. Just give me the password. China Mobile, China Construction Bank, China National Petroleum didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. Over the past year, China has launched a string of regulatory actions targeting the nation's powerful tech sector. Tencent, an online video gaming giant, has hit by new government restrictions on online gaming time for minors. Meanwhile, regulators in July blocked Tencent's bid to combine 2 big game streaming platforms. Tencent President Martin Lau said in November that the tougher regulatory environment in China is the new normal and is here to stay. Beijing's concerns have grown recently over the power of its homegrown internet giants, which reach across all aspects of Chinese life and reams of data on its users. these companies have a unique position in society that could challenge the Communist Party's desire to monopolize such information. Oh, okay. Alrighty. So, next one is from the Irish Times. I think this is a first for us. In fact, I know it is. That Google Ireland, which is Google's kind of HQ for Europe, will pay 218 million euros in backdated corporation tax to Irish authorities. Google Ireland had about 50 million euros in revenue in 2020, up from 45 million in 2019. That's a whole lot of back taxes, 218 million euros in taxes. So about $230 million in backdated corporation tax to the Irish authorities. So what's interesting about that is Google chose Ireland, as did every big American tech company, as their European HQ because of the tax discount that Ireland cleverly rolled out. And because Ireland's part of the EU, and then the EU said, that's not fair, and then they said, and then Ireland doesn't want to collect these taxes. Ireland doesn't want to fine these tech companies. Ireland wined and dined and rolled out the red carpet for these big tech companies to set up, and then the EU's like, but you got to tax them this way, and you got to do it this way, and you're part of the EU now, Ireland, so you got to do what we say. And Ireland's like, yeah, but you know what, we don't really want to do this to these big tech companies, that they're our friends. They're employing all of our people. And we told them we weren't going to tax them. And the EU said, yeah, but you know what? We need the money. So here's the gun, put it to their head and take the money. And so Ireland's now begrudgingly collecting the taxes that they said that they probably wouldn't, and never really wanted to do.
Wasn't there also a uniform tax agreement that like 200 countries just signed up for?
Yes.
Across most OECD. So
correct. And
it's sort of inevitable, this whole thing anyway, right?
Yeah, but Ireland was really dragging its feet on that one. Anyway, they did eventually join it, and here we are. So the next one is Israel reduces the countries approved for export of cyber tools from 102 to 37, most of which are in the West, after U.S. sanctions NSO and Kangaroo. So this is your update in the ever-going drama of Pegasus and NSO Group. And it says that Israel's defense ministry slashes cyber export list, drops Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. The Ministry of Defense has reduced the number of countries approved for export of cyber tools by Israeli companies from 102 to 37. Israel's updated the list of countries. And who else is on the list? The new list mainly includes Western European countries, the US, and Canada. See full list below. The updated list released at the beginning of November doesn't include countries such as Morocco, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, which, according to reports, are among the countries to have acquired offensive cyber tools from Israel's company NSO. The embroiled company hasn't confirmed which countries it has done business with, but did state that it only sold to countries approved by the Ministry of Defense. Assuming this claim is correct, it seems that Israel was very lenient in providing approvals for the sale of cyber tools and was aware of all the sales being made by NSO. The new list will significantly complicate matters for Israeli cybersecurity companies, especially those selling offensive cyber tools to operate in countries with totalitarian regimes or with a record of violating human rights. The Israeli cybersecurity sector currently generates $10 billion in annual revenue, with offensive cyber believed to be responsible for 10% of those sales. Some 13% of all cybersecurity companies operate from Israel, and 29% of all investments in the sector being directed to Israeli companies. Wow. 30% of all cybersecurity investment goes to Israel. It is unclear whether one of the reasons that the list was curtailed was due to the Ministry of Defense knowing that the U.S. Commerce Department was planning to add NSO and Israel's Kangaroo to its trade blacklist. The Commerce Department said earlier this month that NSO and Kangaroo sold spyware to foreign governments that use the equipment to target government officials, journalists, and others. The Ministry of Defense told the publication here that the state of Israel is constantly reassessing its policy on supervising its defense export in general, including its policy on supervising the export of cyber products. The state of Israel only approves the export of cyber products for government organizations to be used in a legal manner and for the purpose of preventing and investigating crime and fighting terror. All of this in accordance with the commitment made by the acquiring country as to the updated list includes Austria, Italy, Iceland, Ireland, Estonia, Bulgaria, Belgium, the UK, Germany, Denmark, Netherlands, Greece, Luxembourg, Latvia, Lithuania, Liechtenstein, Malta, Norway, Slovenia, Slovakia, Spain, Portugal, Finland, Czech, France, Croatia, Cyprus, Romania, Sweden, Switzerland, Austria, India, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, United States, and Canada. AKA the good guys.
So the countries have bought the security system from the Israeli companies, but they are not on the list of safe countries?
What's going to happen to the ones who bought it and are no longer on the list?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The article doesn't say.
It's a going forward thing, right? So, I mean, they have it already. They have it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, the company ostensibly, it's a good question. That's a journalist should ask that to the ministry. And the ministry is going to say, oh, well, of course, they'll stop selling it to them.
In the future. But the fact that they already have acquired that whatever, the name of that product is from the Israeli company.
Do you not recall me making some joking kind of cartoonish impressions of a new company starting in Moldova?
Yes, okay.
If anyone knows the name of that new company starting in Moldova, if anyone can look up the new companies starting in Moldova, I think there might be one called Flying Horse, Flying Unicorn. Yes. Hello, United Arab Emirates, Mexico, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia. Hello. Yes. I'm your friend. I got your number from some friends in Israel. They say you might be interested in some offensive cybersecurity tools. No, we're not Pegasus. No. We're Flying Unicorn. Would you be interested in Flying Unicorn? No. It's not an Israeli accent you hear. No, sir. No, I'm Moldovan, sir. I'm from Moldova. Would you be interested in some flying unicorns? We can help you very nice with your hacking, maybe. I see her.
So that's why I'm saying it's not a smart decision right now to do this, to get those countries off of the list and let them be on the lookout for something else, someone else, somewhere else, not safe.
It goes underground. Anyway, so the next one is, let's see here. Israel said, okay. Baidu, according to CNBC, Baidu, which is the Google of China, says it has won approval to start collecting fares for Apollo Go robo-taxis in Beijing's Yijuan district, the first such approval in a large Chinese city. Beijing's municipal government has approved a permit for Baidu's robo-taxi business to collect fares in a part of the capital city. And I'm curious if they still have a driver in the front or not. Let's see. I don't think CNBC is going to know that. It's effective Thursday. Baidu's unit will run the robotaxi business. They will collect fares from passengers, taking one of 67 self-driving cars in Beijing's suburban district in Yijuan. While the company did not disclose exact pricing, it said fares would be comparable with the premium level ride-hailing charges available through apps like Didi, which can cost twice as much as ordinary rides. Baidu has offered free robotaxi rides in Yijuan since October 2020. As of Wednesday, the robotaxi app showed a sample fare of $5.31 for a 3-kilometer ride. The same route costs about $2.19 through Didi. So far, the novelty of a free self-driving taxi has drawn a number of regular users, and more than 20,000 users each take at least 10 rides a month. But it doesn't say if there's a human companion at the wheel or not.
Aren't robo taxis driverless?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about Tesla's future plan of driverless taxis.
Yes, well, they all have those plans, but lawmakers force them to keep somebody in the front seat who, basically plays Candy Crush all day while the car drives, does the route.
Well, to make sure they don't hit those emergency vehicles, like we know some of them do, right?
Or you have supervised drivers, like that video I sent you, Tyler. Basically, a remote location over 5G where the self-driving, but there's a supervisor who can take over in the event of an accident or emergency.
So far, Baidu can only offer public robotaxi rides when a human staff member is accompanying passengers. There it is. They're still using humans. The human driver accounts for about 60% of the user payment in ride-sharing, according to Credit Suisse report last month. Meaning we should see about a 50% reduction in the cost of these rides when the human's removed. So they're still doing human. We have there are fully autonomous robotaxis operating in San Francisco and soon in New York, we can assume. So next up, oh, sorry, I need to go back. The next one is, there it is. According to Axios, they say they have sources that 5 Democratic senators told the White House that they oppose the nomination of Ms. Omarova, Biden's pick to lead the OCC, effectively killing her nomination. Because she opposes crypto as one of the reasons given. But the Biden administration still says they still support her. So we'll find out soon how that turns out. The next one is the Wall Street Journal did an interview with Christie's Auction House's head of marketing named Netta Whitney, all about the fact that Christie's Auction House has been selling a lot of very expensive NFTs lately, expanding beyond traditional high-value artwork. They also spoke about the metaverse and stuff like that. And then the next one is Watchbox, an online marketplace for buying, selling, and trading luxury watches, raises $165 million from investors, including Michael Jordan, who's a bit of a watch aficionado himself. And indeed, for those who don't know, watches has been very big business for quite a few years now, and especially recently as a sort of hard asset to hold value during inflation. And Poshmark is an app that is having a difficult time. Their market cap is now dropped 50% since its January IPO, as revenue growth has slowed to 16% in Q3, down from 42% in Q1, due to Apple's privacy changes in iOS 14.5, where they asked you and everybody else who has an iPhone, do you really want to share your super sweet, juicy data with all of these really bad websites like Facebook and Poshmark? And you said, no, I don't really want to help Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's a very mean person, and I don't want to share that sweet, juicy data with Poshmark or Mark. And that's why Poshmark is now dropped 50% in value. And Apple said, thank you very much. We will take that data and we will build an ad network and we will make $100 billion more. with the ad network. But we're not going to ask you if you want to share that data with us. No. That's not an option. We're going to take that data whether you like it or not. So the next one is from the Financial Times that Southeast Asia fintech companies have raised more than $3 billion across 80 deals this year, more than 2020 and 2019 combined. Next one is Banking Committee Chairperson Senator Sherrod Brown probes Coinbase, Binance, and Tether and others over stablecoin consumer risks, as they should, and seeks a response by December 3rd. Senator Loomis has taken to Twitter to say it's great to see federal banking agencies plan for real movement in the digital asset space. Digital assets are here to stay, and I'll be watching to make sure regulators provide innovators with clear guidelines to continue to innovate and also protect consumers from bad actors. And honestly, I think Coinbase actually welcomes this. I think Tether does not, and Binance certainly does not, but I think Coinbase actually is very eager to talk with and get the roads, the rules of the road laid down very cleanly, and the lines on the map and the lines on the tennis court, so that they can start playing ball. Because something tells me Binance is not going to have a fun time with this. But I think
There was a big article on Binance in either the Journal or something just in the last 2 weeks, and I mean, apparently, even one of the issues is that they don't even have like a physical corporate headquarters, and you can say, well, that's the 21st century, but the banking regulators, and this is international. This is all most of the countries, they want them to have some physical place that they know that the corporate offices are, not just say, hey, we've got somebody working from home in Singapore, and then next week they're working from Mexico, and next week, because they want to be able to raid a place for records or something. They need to know what place to raid.
Yep. As a global traveler since almost 20 years, I know that scenario all too well. So the next one is the U.S. places a dozen Chinese groups that are developing quantum computing and semiconductors and aerospace technologies. These place them on a blacklist, blocking any American company from exporting to them to help and aid, to assist them in their plans to build semiconductors and aerospace technologies for quantum computers, because that's perceived as security threats, national security threats. As the headline from CNBC says on the same article, U.S. blacklists dozens of Chinese tech firms, citing national security concerns. And the list of Chinese companies being banned is growing by the day. I think we're well over 100 at this point. And it will continue for the rest of our lifetimes. The U.S. is done with China, as I told you yesterday. They're just done. We're done. We see what you're doing. We're no longer interested in you having any more power. We see what's going on. We're done. Bye-bye. No, thank you. We're sorry. We screwed up. We never should have done this. It's the divorce. It's the official breakup. I'm taking all of my things. I've called the moving truck. No, sweetheart. No, don't hug me. Don't kiss me. No. We're done. It's over. I'm moving out. I'm heading back to mom's house. You can keep the dog, but I'm moving out. That's what's happening. So, a Windows 10 and Windows 11 exploit allows an attacker with a physical access to gain system privileges, bypassing Microsoft's patch from earlier this month. And that's your every 10-minute update that your devices are thoroughly pwned to the max. The next one, a Brisbane-based company called SimPro, which offers work management tools for employees, raises $350 million. And Chinese state media says a regulator told Tencent to submit any new apps or updates for inspection, as I told you when we talked about the new article today, which is government state-run companies are telling their employees, do not use Tencent for work, or delete anything to do with work. It's bad, it's bad, it's dangerous. And that's even China's telling its own, the state-run companies are telling its employees, don't use Tencent, which is WeChat. So, the next one, Twitter updates its iOS app to stop automatically refreshing timelines. And we covered that one before. Japan's working on a cryptocurrency. India's pushing for a bill to ban all cryptos, but also starting a framework to create their own CBDC. And those are your big, boring headlines for today. So now we get into the tweets. Does anyone have a tweet that they want to make sure we get into? Oh, there's a new one here. Roblox is suing Ruben Sim, a YouTuber it has banned over harassment and sexual content for leading a cyber mob that it says terrorizes its platform and developers. Oh boy, that's hot. That's hot sauce. The banned Roblox user is also a popular and controversial YouTube creator called Ruben Sim. The Roblox Corporation is suing Roblox content creator Benjamin Robert Simon, better known as Ruben Sim, for leading a cyber mob that they say terrorizes the Roblox platform and its developers. Roblox lawyers filed the lawsuit Tuesday in California court, alleging that Simon commits and engages in unlawful acts designed to injure Roblox and its users. Roblox is looking for $1.6 million in damages. Simon has a long history with the Roblox platform, from which he's been banned for several years. He continues to access the platform, however, by hacking and using accounts created by other people. He was banned originally for harassing users and using racist and homophobic slurs, as well as for sexual harassment and uploading photos of Adolf Hitler. Roblox's lawyers said some of this content is uploaded to his YouTube and Patreon channels, where he makes money from them, they said. But most recently, Roblox lawyers said Simon posted terrorist threats that temporarily shut down the Roblox Developers Conference in San Francisco in October. According to the lawsuit, Simon and his cyber mob followers discussed the YouTube headquarters shooting from April 2018, in which Simon reportedly said, "Wait until someone does it at Roblox." During the event, Simon reportedly posted a message on Twitter suggesting that San Francisco police were searching for notorious Islamic extremists at the RDC 2021, which is the Roblox Developer Conference. He and others continued to post fake threats like these, including one that reportedly said, "Don't come to RDC tomorrow," lawyers said. The event was delayed and forced into a temporary lockdown while local police and private security conducted a search to secure the facility. Roblox said it cost $50,000 to investigate and secure RDC after the incident. Simon has since deleted many of his tweets. Also outlined in the lawsuit is Simon's targeted harassment towards Roblox users and employees in-game and on social media. Okay.
So Tyler, I'm going to tell you, if I was still a sell-side analyst and I covered Roblox,
Yeah.
I'd be asking them on their next conference call, if not before, given the nature of everything you just laid out. Why are they even having to deal with this civilly? Because they just basically made a whole bunch of allegations, all of which are criminal, and I can't imagine that they haven't contacted authorities, because there's enough there. Okay, even if half the stuff is true, to bring this guy in for questioning at a minimum. And so, I mean, I just think it's interesting that the discussion in the article is what they're doing civilly.
I don't know. That gets into criminal law, something I really don't know anything about.
No, I'm just saying, like, there's a question, like when I was an analyst, if I was still an analyst, where I was covering this company, that would be like a question absolutely I would have, just based on, I'm not saying I know the answers. I'm just saying it's an interesting question. And as you always talk about, how come the journalist, you would think the journalist may have brought this up, right? Whoever wrote the article.
I think the question is whether, why isn't a prosecutor taking it, because they can't bring criminal charges themselves. But
I understand that. That's my point. Yeah. But at least there should be a statement in the article that maybe that they've referred to, they've referred it to law enforcement. I mean, usually you see a statement like that every time there's like a hack, like even just like a hack of a system where they just get names and addresses, you'll always see a comment, usually from the company, that we're cooperating with the FBI or we're cooperating with authorities. But you don't even. I mean, apparently that was absent from this article, so it's interesting.
Welcome to the metaverse, just like real life.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, remember you wanted me to remind you about, I think it's a medical news that John can comment on. I think he's in
Yes.
the audience, but he's not on stage yet. You remember which article is that? I forgot.
Yes, there was a UCSD doctors had made some kind of breakthrough about the internal fidelity of a cell. I think we could find that article.
John just got here, by the way.
Yeah, UCSD
Welcome back, John.
medical
Thank you.
cell. Let's see.
This was regarding cancer, right?
It didn't really mention cancer. Here it is, right here.
Can you pin it?
I got it. Yeah, I will right now. It says, we might not know half of what's in our cells, new AI technique reveals. And I assumed you might be familiar with the people named in the article. Here it is. Most human diseases can be traced to malfunctioning parts of a cell. A tumor is able to grow because a gene wasn't accurately translated into a particular protein, or a metabolic disease arises because mitochondria aren't firing properly, for example. But to understand what parts of a cell can go wrong in a disease, scientists first need to have a complete list of parts. By combining microscopy, biochemistry techniques, and artificial intelligence, researchers at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine and collaborators have taken what they think may turn out to be a significant leap forward in the understanding of human cells. The technique, known as multi-scale integrated cell, is described in the November 24th issue of Nature. Quote, if you imagine a cell, you probably picture a colorful diagram in your cell biology textbook with mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, and nucleus. But is that the whole story? Definitely not, says Trey Ideker, PhD, professor at UC San Diego School of Medicine and Moore's Cancer Center. Maybe that's where the cancer part came in. Scientists have long realized there's more that we don't know than we know, but now we finally have a way to look deeper. Ideker led the study with Emma Lundberg, PhD, at KTH Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden. Oh wow! So we got both. We've got UCSD and KTH. Both the two places I've spent many days of my life there. That's kind of funny. I'm to see both of those in one sentence. In the pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. It's just
No. Go ahead and finish.
It says in the pilot study, they revealed approximately 70 components contained within a human kidney cell line, half of which have never been seen before. In one example, the researchers spotted a group of proteins forming an unfamiliar structure. Working with UC San Diego colleagues, they eventually determined that the structure to be a new complex of proteins that bind RNA. The complex is likely involved in splicing, an important cellular event that enables the translation of genes to proteins and helps determine which genes are activated at which times.
Yeah, this is again, it just blow the doors open on what we know about biology and physiology and pathology and disease. There are so many new probes that have been brought to scale just in the last couple of years, things that have been toyed with in the past but not really perfected at the microscopic scale. And when you start converging these tools, including digital pathology with specific markers, and you can look at spatial biology of individual cells and how their morphology changes and where in the cell certain markers reside, and look at all the markers within a single cell. I mean, we're going to, in 10 years, we will have probably 5 times the understanding of normal cell biology that we have today. I mean, the fundamentals, around metabolism and import and export out of cells and membrane physiology are reasonably well understood. But what goes on inside a cell, aside from that, is still mostly mysterious. And these probes are just absolutely going to yield stunning information. And what we've suspected for a long time is that the minimal amount of information we get out of your genome today, and most people who have been sequenced know that there wasn't a whole lot that they could act on by getting their genetic sequence. Once we have a deeper understanding of some of these processes and some of the variations, that's going to increase in terms of how to interpret our own DNA. But the DNA itself is really just a roadmap, and it's the expression and the regulation of the DNA that really determines our health outcomes. And so these combined tools looking at not just your DNA, but your messenger RNA, the so-called transcriptome, and then the proteome and the lipidome, and all of these various elements are mostly black box today, and we're bringing some of these new tools together is just going to cause an explosion. And there's no way in the world that a human brain could disambiguate all this complex multi-omic data. So AI is not just enabling; it is critical to look at these diverse data sets at scale and make sense of them. So very exciting times. And yes, this lab is a real pioneer in this space. And I don't know the individuals personally, but it's a renowned lab in this kind of work.
And the other thing that I'll add is that typically when you do experiments in cell biology, you're only looking at one or two. In all of the things that you're not looking at, there can be all kinds of stuff going on that you would totally miss. So the more things that you're looking at in terms of completely different techniques, whether it's the transcriptome or cellular structure, changes in cellular structure, or changes in the proteome, when you can see all of those things at the same time, there's probably a lot of things that you can correlate that you would just be oblivious to otherwise.
Yeah, well said. And the number of tools that are being brought to scale simultaneously that can operate to generate simultaneous data across all of those factors is just mind blowing.
So Disney plans to spend $33 billion on content next year. That's a lot of content. It's because of Disney Plus, and they have to stay competitive with Netflix and the others. It's an incredible battle that between those streaming video.
Tyler, a lot of it's sports rights. So
Really?
don't assume it's all going into Disney Plus. So I mean, I don't have a breakdown right now, but I know a lot of it's sports rights.
Okay. And Disney, Viacom, CBS, and others are offering steep discounts this week amid slowing subscriber growth, with 1 year of Hulu available for 99 cents per month. Wow. That's how you know we're getting in the late stages of the streaming battle.
And just as a reminder, when people talk about Disney corporately, remember Disney owns ESPN. That's what I'm saying. They're including all of that, and then the sports rights and stuff like
that. Okay. BBC says its international news service now reaches 456 million people each week, which is up 4% since last year. So good on the BBC, and God bless them. We need, I think they are, to me, still one of the good guys who are refused to join the popular trend of the moment of becoming activists and just report it as they've always done. They have an amazing legacy, like the New York Times used to have, and good on them for not throwing it overboard. So the next one that I have is a really interesting one.
Tyler, before you go to that next one,
yeah,
if you just search that headline and just look at the news feeds, the thumbnails that come up, and just look at the different tone of each of the opening statements into the articles that they're talking about. It's actually really ridiculous. So I selected that one a little more carefully than others.
Okay.
But it's the if
about
it
the
was true
BBC?
journalism,
Which one are you talking about?
that article that you just had.
Uh-huh.
That you just had post up about the BBC. It
Uh-huh.
It just goes to show that the tone, it's not just journalism. It's propaganda journalism all over everything.
Yeah.
So take a look at it. If you're talking about the
check
Sweden
this out.
article.
So the New York Magazine, which has been around for more than a minute, nymag.com, New York Magazine, it's a print magazine. Anyway, they their headline today says it's all about the New York Times. And check out what they have to say about their friends down the road at the New York Times. In October 2016, Wirecutter, a scrappy website that uses journalism to help people make purchases, was 5 years old. On a Sunday that month, Brian Lamb, the site's founder, told everyone to clear their Monday for an all-hands meeting. Usually in media that means you're all going to get fired, but shortly the word got out the company was being acquired by the New York Times. Nick Guy, Kimber Streams, and Kevin Purdy, 3 Wirecutter folks in Buffalo, went out that night all excited to celebrate. That excitement has resonated for another 5 years. Nick, now living in Brooklyn, still has a framed article about the Wirecutter acquisition on the wall of his home, where he reviews Apple products and accessories for that site. The enthusiasm for Wirecutter is helping in his capacity as Wirecutter's unit chair on the News Guild of New York Executive Committee to facilitate a strike that is scheduled to begin 12:01 a.m. on Thanksgiving, which is right now. Like really right now. The union is asking readers to not shop through Wirecutter during the strike, which is intended to end on Tuesday, spanning some of the peak online shopping days of the year. Management is not happy. In the Times, New York Times, all-company Slack channel, David Perpish, whose title is head of standalone products, which means he oversees things like Wirecutter and the cooking product for the New York Times, and whose grandfather is Arthur Sulzberger, who's the boss of the New York Times, that's his grandfather, posted a message saying, while the institution understood the right to strike, management was disappointed. He wrote, strikes are extreme measures that are typically reserved for instances in which an employer is not willing to negotiate further. With the Wirecutter union, we are very close to reaching an agreement and have remained willing to engage in the necessary give and take of negotiations to try and reach an overall agreement. So there's a strike going on within the New York Times on Thanksgiving, right now as we speak. Emoji reactions to his Slack post as of 11 a.m. on Wednesday were not friendly. They included union logos and at least 39 people posting a fist raised in solidarity, 34 people posted a grimace, 38 people posted the thinking face emoji, and 12 people responded with an emoji depicting Gritty, the chaos-oriented Philadelphia Flyers mascot. The strike is, in some ways, a commentary on the last 5 years of Wirecutter at the New York Times. Lots to discuss here before we move on. I have worked as management at the New York Times, including alongside labor relations people who handle bargaining, and also as some very small involvement in the start of Wirecutter. I am a Times shareholder, according to the writer of this article, and also I tend to side entirely with unions, even when it's not reasonable to do so. Finally, New York is also unionized, though I'm not a member. So the journalist does some very good disclosure there, because he's writing about a competitor and wanted to be transparent about how he was involved in this New York Times owned publication called Wirecutter. So many Wirecutter staff realized early on that their colleagues at the New York Times weren't as excited about their arrival, even as the new CEO, even as then CEO, extolled at sale time that Wirecutter embodies the same standards and values that are the pillars of our own newsroom. But Wirecutter was always treated as a second-class citizen, isolated in its own Slack channel, its own office, and its own reporting structure under Perpich. It never joined the newsroom, and its work was openly sneered at by some longtime staffers at the New York Times. Many Times staffers don't believe their work is journalism at all. The pay scale as well is substantially different from the New York Times salary. Even the New York Times fellows, who are year-long full-time jobs in the newsroom designed to train emerging journalists, receive a significantly higher salary than the starting salary for the Wirecutter writers. The reason the union is asking readers not to buy through the site is that the company's main revenue base has always been from referral fees for sales on sites like Amazon. Recently, Wirecutter has become part of the New York Times subscription offerings, and also the future of affiliate revenue is always cloudy. As much as it depends on the whims of Jeff Bezos, subscribers and their retention is the most important thing to the business side of the New York Times, according to the chief executive. Wirecutter recruited 10,000 subscribers in the first month behind the paywall. Today, before their departure, staff are trying to set Wirecutter up for success, setting up management and freelancers to cover the holiday that somehow became synonymous with online plundering. Quote, ideally, we will reach a deal, and we want to be setting ourselves up for success if we do reach a deal, said Guy on Wednesday morning. Technically, he had a long scheduled day off and would not be working himself. The points of dispute between the union and management at the New York Times have been fairly par for the course. Pay bans, annual increases, healthcare costs, and the end of non-disclosure agreements, so as to not muzzle people in harassment or discrimination situations. And the union and management are not so far off apart, already largely in alignment on healthcare and on 30 topics thus far. This limited strike hopes to be part of a wave of organizing and action from Starbucks to John Deere to Columbia University student workers to Amazon that is proving the worth of organized labor. Striketober is giving way to Strike November and leading into Strike December. The Times, in a statement shared with publications, said the New York Times has a long history of productive relationships with unions to advance our shared objectives. We're actively working with the Wirecutter union to reach a collective bargaining agreement that continues to reward our employees for their work and contributions to the Times' success, and we look forward to continuing those negotiations at the bargaining table. So, looks like disgruntled employees unionizing under the New York Times. And the next one is the Kremlin names U.S. tech giants that must have a presence in Russia. And the subheadline from the Register in the UK says, nice employees you have. Would be a shame if something were to happen to them. Oh, that's genius.
How would you like that assignment to go over to Moscow for Facebook?
Yeah.
India did the same thing, right?
Yes. And I said after India did it, that Russia would do it, and now Russia's doing it. Nice employees you have. Would be a shame if something were to happen to them. Oh my God, that's too funny. Yeah, the list includes Google, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Telegram, as first reported by Reuters, Zoom, Viber, Spotify, Likey, Discord, Pinterest, and Twitch are also included. Spotify? What the hell is Spotify going to do that upsets Russia?
I'd like to know what the Telegram guy is going to say. Oh, sorry, we're encrypted. I can't do anything.
Exactly right. Russia and Telegram have been going back and forth for a long time.
With Spotify, it's obvious. It's that they stream Pussy Riot.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's a great point. I didn't think of that. All must now set up offices in Russia by 2022 at the latest if they haven't already got at least one. If they decline, the regulator can take coercive measures.
If I were them, I'd just hire some hobo off the street, just put him in the office. free lunch
Hey,
and just say,
you want
this
to
is
make
our new job.
$1,000 a week chilling in the Starbucks over here? Yeah, such as removing the foreign businesses from Russian web search results, banning them from advertising or collecting data in the nation, and imposing other restrictions. Yeah, funny. Okay, next one. What a great subheadline that is. The next one is Amazon workers plan Black Friday strike in their typical tradition. Is it Black Friday already? It's time for another Amazon strike. Then it says from CNET, Amazon workers plan Black Friday strike. One of the largest retailers might be short on workers on the biggest shopping day. Somebody should do a little sleuthing and figure out how many years in a row has there been an Amazon employee strike on Black Friday. It's becoming a tradition. So the next one is from Dr. Fran, that a company called, I guess it's called Pixo, Pyxo, wants to build the biggest network of reusable food containers. Meet Pixo, a French startup that has been thinking a lot about single-use plastic food packaging for the past 3 years. The company wants to offer a service that makes it easy and as cost efficient to use recyclable food storage containers at scale. The idea behind Pixo comes from a fair at the Tuileries Gardens in Paris, which I always go to every time. If you've never done that, this is something you should put on your bucket list. The Tuileries Gardens, which is right in the smack dab center of Paris, in between the Louvre and the Concorde, Place de la Concorde, is one of the most beautiful spots on the planet and happens to be right next to the Angelina Patisserie, which has the best hot chocolate on the planet. And what I recommend, what's something I do every time I go to Paris, which is pretty often, go to Angelina, get yourself the hot chocolate and a pastry, and then walk through Tuileries Gardens. You can thank me later. That is one of the best things you can do on planet Earth. So, right next to the food stands, waste bins were overflowing with soda cups, clamshell burger containers, and various single-use food packaging. And so the company started working with French corporate catering services. They worked with them to replace plastic cups and make everything reusable. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and the switch to remote work, they started working for other potential clients. And now they're coming up with a way for fast food chains and everybody to constantly reuse these food containers. The startup has created a sort of marketplace of reusable food containers that connect every company in the industry. When a fast food restaurant buy a batch of containers, they all come with QR codes and NFC chips to track them everywhere. Restaurants can outsource cleaning to specialized companies who can give you a batch of clean containers when they come and pick up the containers of the day. These contracting companies also scan containers, cups, and whatever they are cleaning. In addition, customers could also order takeout food and bring it home in reusable containers. They could use an app to find the nearest collection point. It doesn't necessarily have to be a restaurant where you originally ordered your food. Pixo is thinking about gamification and small deposits to incentivize returns. Our vision is that it's an infrastructure industry. Pixo thinks it is building a network that works just like an electricity grid. Down the road, the startup believes there will be a dense network of restaurants, collection points, and cleaning centers. I kind of like it.
Brilliant.
Can you pin that, Tyler?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's pin that. Why not do it with the drinking with like plastic cups as well? I mean, or plastic bottles. It's just the liquid equivalent. Reusable, not recyclable, but reusable plastic bottles. Anyway, Kind of brilliant. So the next one is from Dr. Fran, called Perfect. Brings in money to shell out plant-based egg alternative. Worldwide, over 1.3 trillion eggs are produced annually, and this startup co-founders believe this market is largely untapped and has room to grow with plant-based eggs. Cheryl, how about plant-based eggs?
I think China already had like fake eggs since many years ago, and people were complaining at that time, right? Before all these lab-based, plant-based, or whatever thing that come into the picture these days.
Mm-hmm. You can see yourself.
Don't worry, my eggs in Japan are plentiful and delicious.
Okay. NFT.
Maybe the cake. You know
Well,
what, Tyler? I think the cake shop
may I
can
know?
use all
May
for
I
the
know
vegan.
what is the content? Like, is it soy based, and what kind of protein?
It's at the top of the room. You can click the link at the top of the room.
Oh, she's excited.
I'm driving. Sorry.
Okay, well, let's see here. It says, sales of plant-based alternatives like dairy and meat are surging in the global market, and they want to do the same for egg. The Berlin-based company is poised to debut as Chickenless Eggs in the first quarter of 2022. Today, the company announced it raised $2.8 million, and the CEO... Quote, I really believe we deserve better food. My mother's family is from an agriculture background in a small-scale farming, so I always have been conscious of where the food we eat comes from. I turned vegetarian at 12 when my uncle brought me to the slaughterhouse to show me that the sausage I ate were not made the right way. I didn't fully get what was happening there, but it didn't feel right or humane. The first plant-based egg product is protein-rich liquid alternative made from fava beans.
I have a question. If mother hen don't lay eggs, right? What can they do? I
They
mean,
don't
the eggs
exist.
come out naturally, right? They don't exist, right? So what is this plant-based egg actually help in doing anything other than vegan eggs? I mean, as in making cakes for vegetarian.
Well, the hens basically are animal slaves, basically. So you're ending animal slavery.
No, they have to lay eggs even if you don't eat them, right?
No, if everyone stopped eating animal eggs, we wouldn't have lots of chicken houses and chicken suffering.
Okay, so they don't exist.
Correct.
Pet,
Does,
eggs can't.
Carol's not convinced.
No, of course not.
I can smell the
You got
smoke
pet.
coming from her ears. Yeah.
does that mean there's
How
no
dare
chicken
you send my
then?
chickens into non-existence?
So,
Does
well,
mother hen
or
lay
you can
eggs?
use the organic kind of farming and free pasture raised chicken when they run around freely and lay beautiful, healthy eggs.
Yes, cage-free eggs. But they still have to lay eggs, right? You can't stop them from laying eggs, right?
But Cheryl, which came first, the chicken or the eggless egg?
Yeah, right. What do you have an answer? So right now they are saying that there's eggs first before chicken then because you don't need a chicken. I mean, you don't need a hen for an egg because it's plant based.
That's right.
And
Tyler, can you?
Yeah.
people.
Oh,
Anyway,
the
But
top of the page.
how do they reproduce if they don't have eggs, right?
But
That's a way
Cheryl,
to
also, if you make fava bean based eggs, the plant, while it's growing, is reducing carbon from the atmosphere. Where chickens require food, and now you're growing food that you won't have to grow.
but you
But
need water to
so many
plant.
people, sorry, so many people can tolerate fava beans because of the metabolic deficiencies. I mean, their enzymatic deficiencies. Fava beans are not tolerated by everyone.
Mm-hmm. And
Or raw
also,
egg.
you need
Yeah,
water. You need water to
I'm
grow
pretty
the
sure they're not
plants,
going to
right?
force people to eat it, though.
Yeah, it's just an extra option, so it's up to you. But for me, I'll still have my real eggs. Thank you.
We're still
You
Same
know,
working on
here.
for
shrimp
me,
with Cheryl. Come on.
the struggle with this is that I've been trying to become more and more plant-based as I go along, but I've been keto for decades. So, and a lot of the replacements, like for example, fava beans are going to be higher in carbohydrates. That's all.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, next up, Sweden votes in first female prime minister, and then she resigned 7 hours later. But is she back again?
See what men
There,
are doing, Tyler?
huh?
Really?
Please explain the story because I was baffled trying to understand it.
The Sweden's first ever female prime minister has resigned just hours after she was appointed. Magdalena Andersson was announced as leader on Wednesday, but resigned after her coalition partner quit the government and her budget failed to pass. Instead, Parliament voted for a budget drawn by the opposition, which includes the anti-immigrant far right, which would be the Sverige Demokrat, the Swedish Democrats. I have told the speaker I wish to resign, Ms. Anderson told reporters. Her coalition partner, the Green Party, said it could not accept a budget drafted for the first time with the far right. And this is a very common thing in Swedish politics at the moment, is you have two main parties and about 5 or 6 other smaller parties, and the two big parties are dependent on the smaller parties joining. They compete to attract the smaller parties so they can have a majority to pass votes. And then this budget came up from the far right party, which the people on the left in Sweden think that the far right party is kind of racist or anti-immigrant. Not so different. There's a similarity to America there in a small sense, but because the Green Party was part of the alliance that made step one, the right. There's two big parties. The party on the left, there's a left and a right party. You can think of it as Democrats and Republicans to really oversimplify it, but it's not really. But we could use that as a metaphor. So the Democrat Party of Sweden, because there's 5 other smaller parties, the Democrats and the Republicans have to compete to attract the Green Party and the Christian Party and these other small parties. And the Democrats, for lack of a better word, managed to attract more of the smaller parties. However, this budget that came through, the budget that they proposed didn't pass. The budget that the other side proposed, which included the Republicans and their alliance partner, which is the anti-immigrant party, for lack of a better word, the budget did pass. But because that budget passed, the Green Party would not go along with it. And because the Green Party now was breaking up the alliance, that forced the new prime minister of the Democratic Party to step down. I hope that makes sense.
Maybe one thing that's important is there's not a separate vote for the prime minister. It's the leader of the party that has the majority in parliament that becomes the prime minister, as long as they can hold majority.
Clear,
Okay.
clear as mud. Can't they just
Okay.
have gridlock like we have in the U.S.? Come on, Sweden.
No, they don't. Well, they have gridlock, but only at the beginning when they're trying to establish the alliances between the parties. Which it takes them it has just recently, it took them a couple months where there's literally no government because they can't agree on the alliances.
I'm a fan of the parliamentary system. I wish we had one in the
Yeah.
U.S.
Didn't Israel go through that actually for a very long time because they
Yes.
couldn't form a government? So it happened, and at the same time, even after they formed coalition, they were falling apart. So they had about like 3 or 4 elections, like within a span of like 3 or 4 years. So I think they had that type of paralysis as well.
So the news was that he might get a second shot next
Well,
Monday.
it's possible she'll be back. That's what's so weird about Swedish politics.
Yeah, because it says the speaker will nominate her again to be the prime minister. So next month.
Okay. So the next one is, and basically the whole train got derailed because the Green Party doesn't want to cooperate with the anti-immigrant party.
Can I understand that she compromised first for one party, but later the other party weren't satisfied that she compromised, so they left. So she said she doesn't. She didn't want to lead a questionable parliament or government. Is that the easiest way to understand this?
I didn't quite grasp that, but I got to run to an event, so we got to finish here
Oh,
in 5 minutes. But Sharon sends in this one that scientists now predict the Earth will develop rings like Saturn. Earth is on course to have its own rings. They'll just be made of junk,
Yeah, I was going to say it's the satellites. That's right.
said Jake Abbott, robotics professor at University of Utah. Your Earth is developing rings made of junk is a serious issue. What a great article.
Yeah, there was the news about the Russian satellite debris kind of reaching ISS, and the emergency protocol was ensued for 2 cycles,
Yep.
and that was fascinating to know. Yeah.
So Finland's ICE to partner with U.S. Army. Quote, because SAR isn't dependent. Oh, it says Army to work with satellite radar imagery provider called ICE from Finland. It can be used to produce imagery at any time of day or night and through cloud cover. So much advanced satellite imagery. And Dr. Fran sends in this one that a new coronavirus variant is a serious concern in South Africa. Scientists in South Africa are studying a recently identified new coronavirus variant that is a cause of serious concern, stoking fears the country may face another
Yeah.
wave.
Yeah, I just saw the news actually. I was gonna even say it. That they were covering it right here, Al Jazeera or something. They say that they found it in South Africa, Botswana, and also with some people on a flight to Hong Kong. They say
Yes,
that those are B11529. I don't know why they
yes.
give it such a complicated name.
They all have those names, but then they come up with an easier name like Delta or Mu. So they're calling this one
So
Mu.
that name is it's the Pango lineage that Gisaid uses, and scientists kind of use it. I just tagged a bunch of people in a thread about this variant. It does look concerning. It displaced Delta in one city in South Africa rather quickly. Nothing else has really displaced Delta like this, so far as I know.
And Ellie, I think it's resistant to the vaccines. I mean,
Well, they're talking about it being it's showing escape. It's unclear. I haven't gone through all of the thread, nor have I looked at the press conference, but they were talking about immune evasion. Now, immune evasion can be a matter of degree. Immune escape is when it really doesn't make a difference anymore. A previous immune response doesn't make a difference anymore. Even immune evasion is concerning because even small increases in the replicative number, the R, people call it the R naught, but it's really the effective R. Can mean faster spread through a population and being more difficult to control. So even immune evasion is concerning, and they're talking about that being part of what's going on with this new variant.
Yeah. Hi, it's Buona here. I've actually seen that. I saw an article by Daily Mail about this variant. I thought it was it was bogus news because I don't tend to trust anything I read in the Daily Mail. So I'm hearing now from multiple sources that this variant is legit. I also wanted to add that obviously Africa's vaccination rates are pretty low. I mean, maximum 20%, and I don't know if South Africa is maybe 30. If we're like in Tanzania where I am, it's maybe 10%, 5%. So this is a concern that more variants are going to come out from the continent because of such low vaccination rates. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on that. But, obviously we have different reasons as to why Africa is not as vaccinated. And of course, the anti-vaxxers might have different opinions as to whether we need to vaccinate, a high vaccination rate like 70, 80% that we're seeing in some other countries. But if Africa stays this low in vaccination rates, we may see more of these variants, especially if they evade the vaccines in the West, it comes to bite the West as well and East.
So you're right. The thing is that in general, escape variants um, or other evasion variants are also of concern with regard to natural immunity, and we saw something like that in Manaus, where the city in Brazil was devastated by one strain and then devastated again by another variant, even though most of the population had it by that point.
Yeah, this is a legitimate concern. The escape from immunity to whatever extent is a serious concern. The fact that it has replaced Delta is by far the best indicator that this will come to a theater near you soon, no matter where you are. Anything that can displace the Delta variant is going to go global. And some of the people who are anti-vax or vaccine reluctant will take this as evidence that the vaccine is either not useful or perhaps even harmful. That couldn't be further from the truth. The emergence of variants like this can only happen when you've got hundreds of millions of people infected around the globe without adequate vaccination. And so, if anything, the emergence of this variant intensifies the need to vaccinate the globe. What it also means is that we'll need an update to all of the vaccines that are in existence now. It's highly likely that the T cell immunity is persistent because T cells operate against multiple components, but T cells alone are not enough. And it's the antibodies from the B cells that prevent the disease from replicating quickly and gaining access to all the cells of our body. And so uh, we really will need for a rapid turnaround of new vaccines targeted at this variant, depending upon how pathogenic it is, how much disease it causes. And I haven't seen enough of the primary data yet to know whether it's just more contagious and operates like a bad cold, or whether it's more contagious and more virulent. If anybody has any information on that from South Africa, that would be relevant, because if it's as virulent as the Delta virus is and more contagious, that's going to put a heap of pressure on the whole vaccine industry to update the vaccine and get it into scaled manufacturing very quickly.
And two
The
quick
coverage.
points.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Two quick points. I mean, I agree on vaccines, but remember, vaccines are only one leg of a three-legged stool, where things like uh, things that you can do, like wearing masks, better ventilation, social distancing, are another leg. And then the third leg is public health responses like test, trace, isolate. And we need all three. You can have variants that evade immune responses, but that the virus particles can't get small enough to get through N95 masks. So we need to use that tool and use it better than we have been. And the other quick point on this is, like many of the other variants, it does have a mutation in the
R,
RDRP, the polymerase.
RBD, yeah.
No, the
Oh,
the replicase
Oh,
that
okay.
increases the rate of mutations.
Merry Christmas, y'all.
Yeah,
So
I 100% agree with everything Ellie just said, and I would add to that that in terms of how quickly can the vaccine manufacturers adapt, it only takes a couple of days to get the new sequence and produce a new vaccine. What takes time is validating that it's safe. I mean, the effectiveness factor won't be such a proof point because we know that the mRNA vaccines have been extremely effective. It's these mutations that partially escape it that are causing the problem. It's not a deficiency in the vaccine, but we know that the mRNA companies can retool the science and generate small quantities of vaccine in days, and they probably already have this in the can. The delay is proving safety of new vaccines in clinical trials and scaling the manufacturing. So actually creating the vaccine is the easy part. It's safety testing and scaling manufacturing that will be the issue. And cutting over from current manufacturing sequences to an updated sequence. So I expect my prediction is before the end of the year, we will have announcements from all of the mRNA vaccine producers that they're targeting this and beginning to introduce clinical trials for safety.
Okay, so we just have a couple more here. One is from Jeff G. that Poland's new anti-aircraft system will hit stealth targets at supersonic speeds. The system from the UK should be able to fire missiles at supersonic speeds that can hit an adversary's stealth aircraft. Just a little hint from Poland to Putin there. And the next one is from Evan in the audience, found a fantastic video of 6 EHong drones that are 2-seater drones, vertical takeoff and landing. They look like huge, life-sized DJI drones that carry 2 passengers. And there's a video of 6 of them. Wait, no, I'm counting 1, 2, 3. I'm counting 7 in this video, Evan. 7, a squad of these 2-passenger drones flying together over a beach. And my God, that is one of the most futuristic looking little videos I've seen in a very long time. Let me try and pin the tweet to the top of the room so you can see the future of transportation at Coconut Beach.
I wish there's one that wasn't made in China. I don't know if there's a U.S. That Swedish company is building one, right? So
Yeah, truly fantastic video that one is. Very cool. Thank you for that one, Evan. And that takes us to the end of another edition of Tech News Around the World. Thank you, everybody. I got to get to a dinner party, so we will see you again next time.